Hello Weaver birds, we are back for iron today, and I just included its valence electron structure rather than just putting Fe on the page. So for these we are going to start with the rings for the valence electrons. I'm using a single strand with the teeny tiny number 9 needle again. And I'm going to work from the inside out so that I'm not trapping the tension going inward. If you think about it, every time you make a circle with stitches, you're basically making another hoop. It's making its own tension now on that piece of fabric. So when you make tiny circles that are surrounded by more circles or any kind of really tight work, you are definitely going to be making different tension. So just be aware of that. I'm going to pass right through the center of the electrons, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and come up and go down with my back stitch from inside the electrons and make sure that I pierce every time I go through one. And that is because I don't want to come back with my French knots or colonial knots or a bead or whatever you would like to embellish with. I don't want to come back through and disrupt a stitch by placing it there. So if I puncture that spot and have my stitches start and end in a hole there, I can come up through an already punctured hole and not displace a stitch and push it out of the way to make a knot. So I'm going to start and make sure I puncture those. And as you get into bigger circles like these that are not the tiny O's we have been working on, you can use a slightly larger stitch. My goodness, the cat hair today. I have sticky rollered my entire body and my hands and this project, and still it remains. He probably laid up here. Okay, so I'm just doing regular back stitch. I'm not splitting anything. If I have a stitch that I don't like though, like I showed you on previous days, you can just pin it down with the next stitch by splitting it, if you should desire. And so this is a really good exercise in just making nice even circles and nice even tension as you go around and around. I am not going to fully fill that FE in the center with black. Probably just going to stitch in the letters and outline the circle, but I will not be attempting to blind myself by filling in that little tiny speck around several letters. Now if you're struggling and you feel like it's getting really wobbly and not straight, believe it or not, try and lengthen your stitch a little bit, because you might just be taking too small of a bite for how big this circle is. And again, no line is better, no line is straighter than when you just make a straight stitch. So if you can think about making tons and tons of straight stitches to make something round, almost like a video game is built out of polygons, if you put enough of them, it looks like a smooth surface. And so now we're coming up to that electron dot, and I have lined it up pretty darn well. Eventually your eye just kind of naturally does that, and you don't have to think about your stitch length. Your brain just kind of evens it out itself and starts gauging distance better. So I'm making sure that I'm piercing inside the valence electron, and I will do that for every single row that I complete. So again, that I can have a place to put a knot or a bead without having to disturb a nice straight stitch and displace it. Also, something I try to do in all of our patterns, that's kind of my sneaky teacher thing with hidden learning, is that I change the size and general angle of a lot of the shapes so that we get a lot of practice on doing many different sizes of circle, different thicknesses of line on a circle, all of the structures of molecules we're doing. Some of them have different fonts, some of them have different thicknesses of letter for us to mimic. They are all different sizes because I go for the aesthetic on the pattern and then I figure out how I will stitch it. That's just my mental process. So I will probably speed this up so you can have a soothing watch session and enjoy some stitching. And I will come back to talk about my little tricks for putting in, oh, see, I was lazy and I didn't feel for that stitch. Naughty, naughty. All better, but now I have a bulge in my perfect circle. Ugh, I should have pulled that out. I was lazy and then I was lazy again. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think it'll be super noticeable, so I'm going to let that slide. Anyway, I hope that these videos are helpful to you. I hope that the closed captioning is sufficient for everyone, as I leave the closed captions on, and I'm not hard of hearing. I am just ADHD and autistic, so I can't hear without the captions on. Okay, so there's one row, and I'm just going to continue with our super fine thread. I know you can do this, and you're going to be great. Let's go. Okay, so we got those in with a few wonky spots that I went back and fixed. That's just the trouble with using a teeny tiny needle is you've made a teeny tiny hole. So sometimes you have to go back and find teeny tiny gaps where you didn't quite get it. But that's okay. So this is the best trick I've found for trying to do French knots. I use a slightly shorter piece of thread so that it won't tangle. So it's like probably a foot long. Then I grab my extra, do my double wrap because the single wrap will kind of just fall through your fabric. And I hold it tight as I set it back in and putting it into the hole that I pierced in between my stitches. And then I pull it tight and I hold it tight as the thread goes through. Oh, see? Too small. It went right through. So we might have to do 3 wraps. It's a little risky doing double strand French knots. I just feel like they don't ever come out even. You can do colonial knots, do whatever you like. So there's 2 wraps again. That's a little better. So I pulled it tight with these fingers and hold the tension on that so that as I pull through, it doesn't have a chance to knot, if that makes sense. And so then I will do the same right here. Come up next to it, and I'm going back down through the hole that I made. So I grab it, double wrap it, go back through, and hold it tight so that it doesn't have a chance to be a pain. Same thing. Hold it tight, put it through, pull it. Ugh, where did this fluff come from? Oh, right into my face. Lovely. Hold the tension and pull. So I'm going to disappear and repeat that for the rest of these valence electrons. Okay, so I went back around with a single strand and just touched up where I might have missed. Since I'm sitting at kind of an awkward angle, I can't tell if I'm getting it exactly right. I'm going to go back in through with 2 strands of 310 and work the word and also the name of the element. I'll probably just make a real quick circle in the 2 strands around the outside of the letter, and then this stuff, the transfer, that will all just come off when it goes in for its bath, so I'm not worried about hardly being able to see anything when I'm done. So here we go. Okay, so I scratched off a little more of the pattern transfer. It will look better once it's been soaked, but you can see that we got it all in there, and that was a good exercise in teeny tiny circles. So keep on working, everybody. Oh, see? No, it is going in the same hole. It's just a little piece of transfer. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the stitch today. I hope you feel like your skills are improving as we go along. See you tomorrow.